Hi, it's Grandpa Bill again. Here it is, a brand new year, 2020, and God has been prompting me to make a few more videos. So I thought I'd start out with the furthest back I can remember learning a lesson from God. I was a little over 2 years of age, and we'd been attending services at a little four-square Baptist church for as long as I could remember, which, when you think about it, wasn't very long at all. The pews were made from rough sawn 2x4s, and they reached all the way to the outer walls, leaving only a single aisle up the middle. The men always sat on the left side and the women and children on the right. Reaching almost from one side of the little church to the other, just in front of the pulpit sat this rough-sawn hardwood bench. It was really close to the floor. I think purposefully made that way so that you really had to get down low and be humble when you prayed at that bench. Well, during altar call, that's exactly what happened. People would come forward and kneel there and pray. The men would always take out a handkerchief and lay it on the bench. Then they would put their head down on the handkerchief to pray. The women used something like, their shawl or bonnet for the same purpose. I thought it was something that you were supposed to do until I learned the hard way that there were splinters in that bench. I sat there and scooted sideways one Sunday. The men would always wear clean coveralls, or if they really dressed up, it would be a white shirt and pants, suspenders holding the whole works up. The women always wore black dresses, all of them. They touched the floor, went all the way down to their wrists, and were buttoned up all the way to their necks. The only thing colorful they ever wore were those bonnets, which were hand-sewn from flour sacks. The pastor was one of those fire and brimstone preachers. Just picture a little country church hidden deep in the Appalachian Mountains, and you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. He did his best to scare hell right out of you by preaching on the terror of that dreaded place. "You're going to go to hell if," were the words that always seemed to precede his stomping on the floor, jumping up and down, shouting and pounding on the pulpit.
He was warmer than a summer breeze. He was softer than his silver hair. He was brighter than the twinkle in his eye as he rested in his easy chair. And I remember how he used to smile and tell me all about the folks back then. And if I had my way, I'd be there today, and I'd do it all over again.
Mama had been acting kind of sad lately. I caught her crying from time to time. One Sunday morning, Mama got me ready, and then when she got ready, she wrapped my baby sister in a blanket and off we went. Dad worked at Main Dodge in Detroit, hand-sanding cars on the assembly line. He almost always drove home on the weekends, but hadn't done so for a week or two. It seemed like a normal Sunday to me until the pastor asked if anyone wanted to come forward to pray or accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior. That Monday, Mama did something that I'd never seen her do before. She handed my baby sister to a lady sitting next to her and asked that lady if she would watch her until she got back. Then Mama stood up, and headed to the front of the church and dropped to her knees. She placed her head face down on that old rough bench. I suddenly found myself in uncharted territory. I knew that I needed to be with Mama, but I'm not sure if it was to comfort her or because I could tell something was wrong. I still searched my memory trying to find the answer to that puzzle. The real reason I did what I did that day so long ago. In all honesty, at that age, I had no clue how to make Mama feel better. I was determined to take action, though. But a child that age really can't think that far ahead. But I just had to be with her. There was an obstacle in my way, though. You see, that obstacle seemed to be insurmountable. All the grown-ups would always run me away from that bench at the front of the church every time I got near it. And I don't know how I was going to get around that. Then suddenly I got an idea. This thought began to dawn on me. If I were to do exactly what I'd seen the grown-ups do when they went up to that bench, maybe I could get there. So I lowered my head, like when someone prays, and slowly I eased out from the pew with my head lowered and carefully, oh so slowly, walked forward with my head down. When I got to the bench, I dropped to my knees, just like I'd seen the grown-ups do, right next to Mama, and placed my head face down on that bench. Not a person stopped me. It had worked. I looked over at Mama and saw tears in her closed eyes. And then I noticed the corresponding wet spots on the bench. Suddenly I realized I was looking to one side, so I quickly looked straight back down. And then I froze. My mind began to reel. What do I do next? No one ever touches another person while they're up here. They don't ask another person anything. They don't hold another person's hand. They don't hug them. They don't speak. They just stay there. And maybe you hear them cry or sob a little bit. But other than that, nothing. So what could I do? I finally settled for just being there next to Mama and hoped that would be enough. After what seemed forever, Mama got up and so did I. I looked up at her and held her hand as we walked back to my sister and sat in the pews. And as the service began to wind down, something else happened. One of the men in the church got up and began to prophesy about me. When Mama looked down at me, she could see the puzzled fear that was on my face, so she picked me up. And I whispered to her, "Mama, are they talking about me?" I was promptly shushed. I began to listen intently and tried my best to understand what that man was talking about. He was saying things like, this boy will grow to know God's love and express it to anyone that will accept it. This child will be used powerfully by the Lord whenever and wherever people thirst for the truth. But he's strong-willed and learning will be difficult for him. But God's purpose for him will be fulfilled in the end. I reasoned that God must really be big and really smart if he was able to tell that man who didn't know me what was going to happen in my life. Before we left there that day, I knew in my heart that there is a God who is good, just like I knew that there is a devil who is bad. And for a 2-year-old, that must have been enough for my first lesson from God. But I'm wondering right now, are you wondering if there really is a God? Well, there is. Jeremiah 29:11, you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all of your heart. This was the first time I totally believed in God. And I'm wondering, is this the first time you've heard about God? A God that is so big that he knows everything about you? A God who loves you anyway? Then you need to know a little more. You can and will find him if you will give him more than lip service in the effort. If you truly mean it with all your heart, you'll be surprised how quickly you will find God. Put your heart into reading the Bible. Put your heart into seeking him. Speak to him just like he's right there, because in actuality, he is. I suggest you find a Bible-believing church, one that teaches only from the Bible and not from man's wisdom. Open your heart to the possibility of maybe starting a friendship with a Christian. You know, a person who's been down that same road you're now following. A person who believes that Jesus actually left his home in heaven to take on flesh and become a man, who then lived a perfect life so that he could go to the cross and die in your place so that you could live. He then was raised from the dead on the 3rd day and now is at the right hand of the Father in heaven. He did all of that so that you could be with him one day in heaven. And that is a marvelous gift. And it's yours for the asking, if you ask from your heart. Another Christian really will be able to help you on your journey toward finding God. I truly recommend that. Now, if you're wondering why there are still unanswered questions from this video concerning my experience at the Foursquare Baptist Church, you need to know that there's another video that accompanies this one, titled Arizona or Bust. It should put an end to your wondering. It should answer those questions for you. You'll find in the description box below some verses that will help you on your search to find the Lord. Also, there's a good example of a prayer you can pray to ask Jesus to be your Lord and Savior. You have a blessed day.
I used to smile and tell